Hello, I'm Ben, DivKid, and it's my pleasure to share this discussion from the DivKid's discussion stage back from Machina Bristronica 2023. This is with Eric Schlappi, and we mainly focus on his Nibbler and free-body Eurorack modules. I also want to take this opportunity to tell you that Machina Bristronica 2024 is rolling around fast now. That's on the 12th and 13th of October in Bristol, UK for this year. All the information and tickets is linked down below, so do check that out. And let's get into this discussion with Schlappi. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Eric Schlappi to the stage. I was just asking Eric, does he want to play for a moment? It's got a nice kind of sprawling patch between these cases. So maybe start with you playing around for a moment first?
Sure.
Yeah, great. So I think it's fair to say that the range lends on harsher tones generally, but what's always been surprising is how you can make those much simpler, smoother sounds, say with the 100 grit that I know well, and free body that will take right from really simple, pure, quote, air quote, musical tones through to noise, but it's really controllable between those 2 points. It's kind of been evident in my experience of your range so far. Is that kind of a design goal as a kind of brand manifesto, if you like?
What? Yeah. I mean, so the modules are made so I can make the music I want to make, and I lean towards the harsher side of things. Mm-hmm. But like you can make cool, harsh noise devices really easily if you're not worried about making clean tones also.
Yeah.
And for me, the really interesting thing in music is the transitions. Like, I really want to be able to hit Tangerine Dream, but also Merzbow. Like, I need to be able to go the full...
Well, just noise and endless harsh tone, it almost becomes numbing to a point. If there's no contrast, it's kind of not that hard and heavy.
And there's absolutely no reason you can't make your, like, super chill, ambient... like you can, there's a guy, Sam Prekop, who's been posting a bunch of stuff on Instagram lately who makes beautiful ambient music, and he's been using the 3-body. Mm-hmm. And that's cool to see because the way I use the 3-bodies leans towards the harsh. But the 3-body, for example, anything you could do, like it's a build your own phase and frequency modulation toolkit. So if you want to make Yamaha-style electric pianos, you can do it. It's maybe not like the easiest way to do that, but you can get bell tones, you can get...
Yeah, and it does all the stable harmonic locking to get really clean pitch ratios if you want it to.
But then, because it's me, there's all these cross-modulated normalizations where if you bring them up, all 3 oscillators will start modulating each other and you'll get into some pretty heavy tones quickly. One thing I think when I'm showing people my modules often, like people know know that I lean toward the noisier direction. And people who lean towards the noisier direction, I think sometimes want to start by turning all the knobs up.
Yeah.
But I think with my modules, the key is to start by turning one knob up, because one might actually get you to that same place that in another ecosystem might be the extreme. And you can go further, but there's a lot of places in between to find.
And loss of voltage control as well. Like there's not just FM inputs, but there's CV inputs of the index of the phase modulation. So everything is very dynamic and modulatable. I think that's what we were hearing. I probably, like others watching the screen, I was trying to kind of decode the patch a little bit as you played. But you've also got Nibbler here making patterns, the vector foil, which does lots of utility things. Maybe pick a module and run us down what was happening.
So this whole patch, what I'm doing right now is quote-unquote sequencing using the Nibbler. The Nibbler is it's a CMOS logic module that's built to make, so the function it serves in my system is synced, clocked,
like step modulation?
Clock stepped modulation, as well as gate outputs. And by itself, it doesn't do anything random. But it has lots of CV inputs, including a shift register, so that it starts getting into generative territories really quickly if you have any other logic or modulation to go with it.
Yeah.
What it actually is I feel like it's easier to start with what it does, because it's hands-on and you can easily generate these sort of rhythms and melodies. But what it actually is a accumulator. It's a 4-bit adder. So the name Nibbler, you know what a byte is? Do you know what a nibble is?
No.
It's half a byte.
Okay.
It's 4 bits.
Right, okay, there you go then. So you're building nibbles to build your 4 bits.
So so the controls on it is actually a 4-bit binary word. And each, let's see if we get it. So if all the controls are down, nothing happens. You're adding 0 to 0. But if you bring up 1, you're adding 1 each time to the register, and this creates a stepped sawtooth wave. We can add 3. We can add 7. We can run this at audio rates and create sort of modem sounds.
Okay.
We have 2 different voltage outputs here. With a phase offset. So I don't know how obvious it is in the stereo field, but with no offset, I guess I should explain what the patch is. I'm modulating the ratio of the 3-body. Since the 3-body is built for phase and frequency modulation, you can dial in precise ratios.
Yep.
But you don't have to use the ratios for frequency modulation.
Yeah, it's almost like quantizing to the harmonic scale as opposed to given musical scale.
Exactly. So like if we turn, let's turn this down. We can step through the harmonic series. Or we can control voltage and get these stepping through the harmonic series.
So what's coming into Nibbler? Just the clock to make all this happen?
Just the clock. And you can kill it using the reset button.
And it's on a nice big clacky switch.
It's a Cherry MX Brown, so only the finest of switches.
Okay.
you can send if we send another signal to the shift register, we can start generating shift register melodies with it as well.
So what is that signal you're putting in?
It's just another unsynced.
Just LFO up and down.
It's the end of rise from another boundary.
Okay.
And
so is that like almost like a second input to shift down the register? Okay.
It just moves the bits in a circle, and the input to the shift register is exposed. So if you have multiple nibblers, you could create a longer shift register.
Okay.
There's also an XOR input to the shift register. So if you want to create rumbling type effects, then you just put another signal in there. There's also CV inputs for each of the individual bits. And you can either take the output. You can either take the outputs from the clocked register so that they only change on the clock and everything's always in sync, or you can change it to asynchronous mode. So,
yeah.
And this also makes quite a bit of difference if you're running it at audio rate. So maybe instead of listening to the 3-body, we listen to just the nibbler. So now the nibbler at audio rate is acting as a sort of frequency divider for the 3-body, which we could voltage control.
So it's locking between divisions of the 3-body as the audio rate clock at that point.
So because it's the 4-bit register, so it counts to 16 is what it does. So if you add 1 each time, then it's a divide by 16. If you add 8 each time, it's a divide by 2. If you add 3 each time, then you get 3 over 16, and I'm not sure how that relates exactly, but you can create interesting things with it. And it can get into some sort of strange...
There's a dial-up synthesis you were on about earlier.
I don't know. I think creating modem sounds is important.
So how's that playing out with, say, the vector foil and some of the other modules in the patch?
Oh, yeah. So I guess I should say that, so in this case, I'm just using the vector foil to attenuate the voltages from, the stepped voltages from the nibbler for modulating the 3-body. But then, since each of the bits also has a separate output, we get rhythms out of it as well. And I'm using that to clock the kick drum and this brutal
Noise, snare, hit thing, yeah.
Yeah. So you can drive a whole patch with it, creating kind of an integrated rhythm and melody.
Can we just hear some really simple modulation from 3-body? Maybe just the droning wave and some phase modulation?
Yeah.
Because we've heard how these can get harsh, but as we said at the beginning, it can just be a really beautifully smooth musical sound, and that might just be turning a single knob or a single CV modulation.
I'm going to start by bringing up... So here's listening to the outside oscillators. Both of them are set. So the idea of the 3-body is it's 3 separate oscillators. Each one of them can be in a free mode, like an analog oscillator, or a ratio mode. And you can use the ratios to either build melodies or FM patches. Or you could even run it at clock rates and use it as a giant clocked LFO if you want. It will track any signal that you put into it below and through audio range in the very beginning. Not quite video rate, but...
the video rate's megahertz, so we're fine right through audio.
We're fine for audio. So we could listen to the inner oscillator, which has no modulation, but now we're bringing in phase modulation from each of the outside oscillators. And it's a bit static right now, but we could start modulating the outside oscillators with each other. And
that beating's coming from, did you kick that into free mode and it's just a little bit out of sync and that's what's giving us that almost LFO style motion?
So what I did is I kicked the left oscillator into free and low mode, so it's a free range LFO basically.
Okay.
And the right oscillator is still a ratio. But as I'm phase modulating between them, the LFO is getting audio rate modulation, and the audio rate oscillator is getting below audio rate.
Yeah, so the harmonics are shifting on the right side, the LFO's being wiggled around.
And so there's, the three body isn't explicitly like there's no left and right output, right? But there's tons and tons of these different ways to create a stereo patch. Right now we're listening to the sine and cosine outputs of the middle oscillator, which are actually set up so that the phase if there's no phase modulation, then it is sine and cosine. But the phase modulation is set up to break that rule and push the oscillators in opposite directions, creating this large stereo field. And that's what we're hearing here. We could also listen to the saw and co-saw, which is brutal, or the outside oscillators, which will create some other. On each of the oscillators, the phase and frequency inputs have FM indexes, which comes from the FM synthesis literature, but what it really is it's a VCA.
Yeah, the amount of FM or phase modulation that's happening.
So you can modulate that to create slowly evolving patches.
Yeah, modulated modulation that would otherwise need chains of VCAs to do. That left exactly how it is. Can we listen to the inside oscillator? So what we're hearing is all of what will modulate that central.
Yeah. See what it is. So that's just the outside oscillators. And here's the inside oscillator. It's not even being modulated right now.
Okay.
So we could use that to keep the fundamental in a patch so that you could play it in tune. Or we could start bringing in both of them. And get something really thick.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.